Bullied and betrayed, they never knew she was a mixed martial arts champion. Sophia Reinhardt hunched her shoulders as she walked through the crowded hallways of Westlake High School. At 15, she was painfully aware of how she stood out among her peers. Her slight frame, standing only 5'2", made her an easy target in a sea of confident teenagers. The thick glasses that perched on her nose were functional rather than fashionable, and her dark hair was often pulled back in a practical ponytail that did little to soften her serious expression. As the new girl who'd transferred just 3 weeks ago when her father's job relocated them from Boston, Sophia hadn't yet found her place in the complex social hierarchy of Westlake. What her classmates didn't know, what nobody at this school knew, was that behind her quiet demeanor and unassuming appearance lay years of intensive training. Sophia was a junior mixed martial arts champion with multiple state titles back east, training since she was 7 years old. Her father, a former competitive fighter himself, had instilled in her both the physical skills and the discipline that came with the sport. Keep your head down. Don't make waves. New school, fresh start. These thoughts had become Sophia's mantra since arriving at Westlake. Her parents had been clear. This move was supposed to be a clean slate for all of them. Watch where you're going, new girl, sneered Mackenzie Winters as she deliberately bumped into Sophia, sending her books sprawling across the polished floor of the main hallway. Mackenzie stood at the center of Westlake's social universe, tall, blonde, and possessed of the casual cruelty that often accompanies unquestioned popularity. Her 2 constant companions, Vanessa Torres and Brielle Watson, flanked her like perfectly coordinated bookends, their matching smirks reflecting their leader's contempt. Sophia said nothing, simply kneeling to gather her scattered belongings while the trio of girls stood watching, making no move to help. "What's wrong? Can't talk?" Vanessa prodded, her voice carrying down the crowded hallway. Several students slowed their pace, sensing the potential for drama. Sophia kept her eyes down. "Breathe. Center yourself. This doesn't matter." The techniques her sensei had taught her for remaining calm before a match served her well in these moments. "Maybe she's stupid as well as ugly," Brielle added with a laugh that was quickly echoed by others in the growing audience. Sophia finally stood, books clutched tightly to her chest. She could feel the familiar heat of anger in her stomach, the tightening of muscles that preceded action in the ring. With practiced control, she suppressed the urge to respond physically. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Your training is for discipline, not for showing off or hurting others." "I need to get to class," Sophia said quietly, attempting to sidestep the trio. Mackenzie stepped directly into her path. "We're not done talking to you yet, new girl." "My name is Sophia," she replied, meeting Mackenzie's gaze steadily for the first time. Something flickered across Mackenzie's face, surprise perhaps at the sudden steel in Sophia's eyes, before her sneer returned. "Whatever. Just remember your place here." She moved aside with exaggerated courtesy, gesturing for Sophia to pass. As Sophia walked away, she heard Mackenzie's stage whisper, "God, what a freak." The laughter that followed her down the hallway stung, but Sophia kept walking. "This isn't worth fighting over. Not yet." Mr. Reynolds, her history teacher, barely looked up as she slipped into class seconds before the bell. Finding her seat in Fiesino, the back row, Sophia tried to focus on the lesson about the Civil War, but her mind kept drifting back to the confrontation. This wasn't the first time Mackenzie and her friends had targeted her, and Sophia doubted it would be the last. In just 3 weeks, they'd accidentally spilled soda on her backpack, spread rumors about why she'd transferred schools, and now initiated this public humiliation. The familiar pattern was emerging. Isolate the newcomer, establish dominance, maintain the social order. During lunch period, Sophia sat alone at the end of a crowded table, the empty seats around her a clear indication of her social status. From across the cafeteria, she could see Mackenzie holding court at the popular table, occasionally glancing her way and whispering something that made her friends laugh. "Is this seat taken?" Sophia looked up to see a boy with kind eyes and an awkward smile standing beside her with a lunch tray. "No," she replied, surprised. "I'm Eli," he said, sitting down across from her. "You're in my biology class." "Sophia," she offered, waiting for the catch for the joke to reveal itself, but Eli just nodded and started eating his lunch. "The food here is better than my last school," he commented, though that's not saying much. Despite herself, Sophia smiled. "The pasta's not bad." For the first time since arriving at Westlake, Sophia enjoyed lunch, talking with Eli about classes, teachers, and their mutual dislike of the school's confusing layout. As the bell rang, signaling the end of the period, he offered a casual, "See you around, Sophia." Maybe this place isn't completely terrible, she thought as she headed toward the gym for PE class, a thought that evaporated the moment she pushed open the locker room door. Mackenzie, Vanessa, and Brielle were already changing into their gym clothes, their conversation cutting off abruptly as Sophia entered. The sudden silence, followed by muffled giggles, told her everything she needed to know. "Look who it is," Mackenzie said loudly. "Our little mouse has come to join us." Sophia walked to her assigned locker, determined to ignore them. She quickly changed into her gym uniform, acutely aware of the sidelong glances and whispers. "What are those scars from?" Brielle asked, pointing at the faint marks on Sophia's shoulders and arms, remnants of years of training, falls on mats, and the occasional competition injury. "Nothing," Sophia replied, pulling on her t-shirt quickly. "Did Daddy get mad at you?" Vanessa suggested with mock concern. "Is that why you moved here, family troubles?" Sophia felt her chest tighten. The rumors had already started, it seemed. She slammed her locker shut and walked toward the gym without responding, but Mackenzie's voice followed her. "We're just trying to get to know you, Sophia. No need to be so sensitive." For the next 2 weeks, the pattern continued. Most days, the bullying was subtle. Exclusion from group activities, whispered comments just loud enough to be heard, the occasional accidental collision in the hallway. Some days were worse, with public mockery or targeted humiliation. Sophia maintained her silence, her control, her determination to simply endure until the novelty of tormenting her wore off. Eli became her only friend at Westlake, sitting with her at lunch and partnering with her in biology class. He never pressured her to talk about the bullying, though she knew he must notice it. "Why do you hang out with me?" Sophia asked him one day as they worked on dissecting a frog together. "It's not exactly making you popular." Eli shrugged. "I've been the new kid before. It sucks." He carefully made an incision in the frog's abdomen. "Besides, I'm not interested in being part of their world. Too much drama." Sophia managed a small smile. "Thanks. For what?" "For not being like them." It was during the 4th week at Westlake that everything changed. Sophia was leaving her last class of the day when she heard someone call her name. She turned to see Eli hurrying toward her, his expression troubled. "Have you seen it?" he asked, slightly out of breath. "Seen what?" Eli's face fell. "You don't know." It wasn't a question. "Know what, Eli?" The knot of dread in Sophia's stomach tightened. He hesitated. "Mackenzie and her friends, they recorded you in the girls' bathroom yesterday. It's all over social media already." Sophia felt as if all the air had been punched from her lungs. "They what?" "Come on," Eli said, gently taking her elbow and guiding her to an empty classroom. Once inside, he reluctantly pulled out his phone and showed her the video. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. Sophia in a bathroom stall, the camera clearly positioned over the divider. The angle captured her face clearly as she used the toilet, completely unaware she was being recorded. The video had been shared in a group chat that included most of the junior class, with mocking comments and laughing emojis attached. Sophia felt the blood drain from her face, then rush back with the heat of humiliation and rage. She had never experienced this particular type of violation before, and it struck deeper than any physical blow she'd received in competition. She couldn't even find the words. "Criminal," Eli finished for her, his voice hard. They could get in serious trouble for this, but Sophia barely heard him. Through the roaring in her ears, she was already calculating. The girls' bathroom near the science labs. Yesterday, after 6th period, Mackenzie, Vanessa, and Brielle had all been mysteriously absent from the cafeteria during that time. "I have to go," she said abruptly, handing Eli back his phone. "Sophia, wait," he called after her. "You should report this to the principal. This is illegal." But Sophia was already gone, moving through the thinning crowds in the hallway with a single-minded focus. Her body hummed with the familiar pre-fight tension, but this time she didn't try to suppress it. For 3 weeks she had followed her father's advice. She had kept her head down, endured the taunts, maintained her discipline. But this crossed a line that changed everything. She found them exactly where she expected, the student parking lot, where Mackenzie's convertible stood out among the more modest vehicles. The 3 girls were laughing, Mackenzie's keys dangling from her manicured fingers as they prepared to leave for the day. "Mackenzie!" Sophia called, her voice carrying across the lot. Several nearby students turned to watch, sensing the confrontation brewing. Mackenzie turned, her expression shifting from surprise to smug satisfaction when she saw Sophia approaching. "Well, look who it is. Our little movie star." Vanessa and Brielle giggled, their phones already out as if anticipating another opportunity to record Sophia's humiliation. "Take the video down," Sophia said, her voice steady despite the anger coursing through her. Now, or what? Mackenzie stepped forward, using her height advantage to look down at Sophia. What exactly do you think you're going to do about it, new girl? In that moment, something changed in Sophia. The final thread of restraint snapped. 3 weeks of enduring their cruelty, capped by this ultimate violation of her privacy, it was more than enough justification for what would come next. Last chance, Sophia said quietly, her stance shifting subtly into a fighting position. Around them, a small crowd had gathered, drawn by the promise of drama. Are you threatening me? Mackenzie laughed, looking around at the audience they'd attracted. That's adorable, really. Without warning, Sophia moved. Years of training took over as she grabbed Mackenzie's extended wrist, twisted, and used the girl's own momentum to flip her onto the asphalt. The move was executed with such speed and precision that Mackenzie didn't even have time to cry out before she found herself staring up at the sky, the breath knocked from her lungs. The crowd gasped in collective shock. Vanessa and Brielle stood, frozen, their phones still raised but forgotten as they stared at their leader sprawled on the ground. What the... Mackenzie began, struggling to sit up. Sophia stood over her, balanced on the balls of her feet, ready for whatever came next. I said to take the video down. Vanessa was the first to recover, lunging forward with an incoherent cry of rage. Sophia sidestepped easily, caught Vanessa's outstretched arm, and used a simple joint lock to force the girl to her knees, applying just enough pressure to cause pain without injury. Stop! You're hurting her! Brielle shrieked, backing away even as she said it. Like you hurt me, Sophia replied, her voice dangerously calm. Like you violated my privacy, humiliated me in front of the entire school? She released Vanessa with a slight push, sending her sprawling next to Mackenzie. By now the crowd had grown, students pulling out their phones to record this unexpected reversal of fortunes. Sophia ignored them, focused entirely on the three. Girls who had made her life miserable since her arrival at Westlake. Mackenzie had gotten to her feet, her perfect hair now disheveled, her face flushed with humiliation and anger. You're dead, you psycho, she spat, charging at Sophia with raised fists. Sophia met the attack with practiced ease, deflecting Mackenzie's wild swing and countering with a perfectly placed palm strike to the sternum that sent the taller girl staggering backward. This wasn't a tournament with rules and referees. This was raw, and Sophia held back just enough to avoid causing serious injury. Who taught you that? Someone in the crowd called out. That was like some ninja shit. Sophia didn't answer, her attention fixed on Mackenzie, who was recovering her balance and preparing for another charge. This time, when Mackenzie came at her, Sophia executed a perfectly timed sweep that took the girl's legs out from under her, sending her crashing to the asphalt for the second time. Stay down, Sophia advised, standing over her once more. I've been competing in mixed martial arts tournaments since I was 7 years old. You don't want to do this. Vanessa and Brielle had retreated to the safety of Mackenzie's car, their expressions a mixture of fear and disbelief. The crowd of students had grown larger, their reactions ranging from shock to open admiration for the unexpected skills of the quiet new girl. 3 years undefeated in my division back in Boston, Sophia continued, addressing not just Mackenzie but the entire audience. My father trained me since I could walk. I could have ended this the first day you pushed me, but I was trying to start fresh here. Mackenzie slowly got to her feet, her designer jeans torn at the knee, a scrape on her elbow beginning to bleed. The fight had gone out of her, replaced by a wariness that bordered on fear. You recorded me in the bathroom, Sophia said, her voice carrying across the now silent parking lot. You violated my privacy and shared it with everyone. In some states, that's a felony. She stepped closer to Mackenzie, who flinched visibly. Delete the video, all copies now. Mackenzie fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking slightly as she unlocked it and navigated to the offending video. It's gone, she muttered after a moment. Deleted. Not good enough. Sophia turned to address the crowd. Everyone who got that video, delete it now. It's illegal, and if I find out it's still circulating after today, I'll know who to come looking for. The sound of multiple phones being hastily accessed filled the silence. No one seemed willing to test whether Sophia's threats were empty. Eli had pushed his way to the front of the crowd and now stood watching with a mixture of concern and admiration. You okay? He called to Sophia. She nodded, the adrenaline of the confrontation beginning to ebb, leaving her feeling slightly shaky, but resolved. You should have told someone you could fight like that, Mackenzie said, her voice lacking its usual confidence. Nobody would have messed with you. Sophia looked at her steadily. That's not why I learned to fight. It's not about intimidation. It's about discipline and self-control, something you know nothing about. Whatever, Mackenzie muttered, but the defiance in her voice rang hollow. We're done here, Sophia announced, turning away from the three girls. Don't ever come near me again. As she walked through the parting crowd, Sophia felt a strange mixture of emotions. Relief that she had finally stood up for herself, regret that it had come to this, uncertainty about the consequences that would surely follow. But underneath, it all was a core of certainty. She had drawn a line, and no one at Westlake would dare cross it again. The next day at school, everything was different. The halls grew quiet when Sophia walked through them, conversations pausing as students watched her pass. But it wasn't fear she saw in their eyes, it was respect, tinged with curiosity. By lunchtime, the inevitable summons to the principal's office arrived. Sophia had been expecting it. The confrontation in the parking lot had been witnessed by dozens of students and undoubtedly reported by someone. Principal Moreno was a stern woman with graying hair and a reputation for strict but fair discipline. She gestured for Sophia to take a seat across from her desk. Miss Reinhardt, she began, I've received several reports about an altercation in the parking lot yesterday. Would you care to explain what happened? Sophia took a deep breath. I was defending myself, Ms. Moreno, against three girls who, according to witnesses, you physically overpowered without much difficulty, the principal countered, raising an eyebrow. That seems like an interesting definition of self-defense. It wasn't about yesterday specifically, Sophia explained carefully. It was about the past 3 weeks. Mackenzie and her friends have been bullying me since I arrived. Yesterday, they crossed a line. What line was that? Sophia hesitated, embarrassment washing over her anew. They recorded me in the bathroom without my knowledge and shared the video with other students. Principal Moreno's expression changed, the sternness giving way to concern. That's a serious accusation, Sophia. Do you have evidence of this? The video has been deleted as far as I know, but there were dozens of students who received it before I confronted them. You can ask anyone. The principal made a note on the pad in front of her. I will certainly investigate this claim. Recording someone in a bathroom without consent is not only against school policy but potentially illegal. She looked up at Sophia again. However, that doesn't excuse physical violence on school grounds. I understand, Sophia said quietly. I'm not trying to excuse it. I just want you to know why it happened. Your file mentions that you transferred from Boston, Principal Moreno continued, scanning the documents on her desk, but it doesn't mention anything about martial arts training. It wasn't relevant to my academic record, Sophia replied. A hint of a smile touched the principal's lips. Perhaps not, but it seems quite relevant now. She closed the file. Here's what's going to happen, Sophia. I'm giving you detention for the physical altercation, 2 weeks after school. Violence is never the appropriate response, regardless of provocation. Sophia nodded, accepting the punishment without protest. As for the alleged recording, Principal Moreno continued, I will be conducting a thorough investigation. If what you've told me is true, Mackenzie and her friends will face serious consequences, possibly including suspension or expulsion, depending on the full details. Thank you, Sophia said, surprised by the principal's fairness. One more thing, Principal Moreno added as Sophia stood to leave. We have a school club for martial arts and self-defense. Given your obvious skills, you might consider joining. Channel that energy in a more positive direction. I'll think about it, Sophia promised. True to her word, Principal Moreno's investigation was swift and comprehensive. By the end of the week, Mackenzie, Vanessa, and Brielle had been suspended pending a disciplinary hearing. The video had been completely scrubbed from the school's social networks, with strict warnings issued about the consequences of recording or sharing such content. Sophia served her detention without complaint, using the quiet hours to catch up on homework and reflect on the events that had led to this point. She didn't regret standing up for herself, couldn't regret it given the outcome, but she did wonder if there might have been another way. The dynamics at Westlake had shifted dramatically. Mackenzie's social throne stood empty, but Sophia had no interest in claiming it. Instead, she found herself surrounded by a growing circle of classmates who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her now that the intimidating shadow of Mackenzie's influence had lifted. So are you going to join the martial arts club? Eli asked as they walked to biology class together. Mr. Zhang specifically asked about you. I think he's hoping you'll help coach the beginners. Sophia smiled. Maybe. My dad thinks it would be a good idea. A way to use what I know to help others instead of just defending myself. You did more than defend yourself, Eli pointed out. You kind of liberated the whole school from Mackenzie's reign of terror. People aren't afraid to be themselves anymore. It was true, Sophia realized as she looked around the hallway. Students who had previously kept to the margins were now visible, engaged, as if a weight had been lifted from the entire social ecosystem. A week later, when Mackenzie, Vanessa, and Brielle returned from their suspension, they were subdued, their former swagger noticeably absent. Sophia watched them carefully, prepared for any attempt at retaliation, but none came. Instead, they seemed to be keeping their heads down, avoiding attention, exactly what Sophia herself had tried to do upon arriving at Westlake. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Sophia," Mackenzie's voice came from behind her as she was retrieving books from her locker one afternoon. Sophia turned, instantly alert, to find Mackenzie standing alone without her usual entourage. "What do you want?" Sophia asked, wary but not hostile. Mackenzie looked uncomfortable, her eyes darting around as if checking who might be watching. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, about the video and everything else. It was wrong." Sophia studied the other girl's face, searching for signs of insincerity but finding none. "Why did you do it?" she asked finally. "Why target me from the moment I arrived?" Mackenzie shrugged, a gesture that seemed more helpless than dismissive. "Because that's what I've always done. Because it's easier to push others down than to lift yourself up." She gave a bitter laugh. "And look how well that worked out for me." "I accept your apology," Sophia said after a moment. "But I meant what I said that day. We're done. I'm not interested in being friends, and I'm not interested in being enemies." "Either? Fair enough," Mackenzie nodded. "For what it's worth, I respect what you did, standing up for yourself when no one else would. I wish I'd had that kind of courage instead of whatever this is." She gestured vaguely at herself. As Mackenzie walked away, Sophia felt a strange sense of closure. The confrontation in the parking lot hadn't just changed her status at Westlake, it had disrupted patterns that had been in place long before she arrived. That afternoon, Sophia attended her first meeting of the martial arts club. As she demonstrated techniques for the beginners under Mr. Zhang's approving eye, she felt something settle inside her, a reconciliation between the fighter she had always been and the person she was becoming at Westlake. "Remember," she told, a freshman who was struggling with a basic stance, "it's not about being the strongest or the most aggressive, it's about finding your center and staying true to it no matter what tries to knock you off balance." The words were the same ones her father had taught her years ago, but somehow they held new meaning now. Sophia had found her place at Westlake, not by hiding who she was or by dominating others, but by standing firmly in her truth and refusing to be moved. As she walked home that evening, her gym bag slung over one shoulder, Sophia realized that she no longer hunched as she walked. Her steps were confident, her gaze direct. The quiet new girl was gone, replaced by someone who knew exactly who she was and wasn't afraid to show it. Sometimes, she thought, you have to fight to find peace. It wasn't the lesson she had expected to learn at Westlake, but it was the one that would stay with her, long after the memory of Mackenzie and her cruelty had faded into insignificance. The video was gone, the bullies were subdued, and Sophia Reinhardt had finally stopped hiding. Character count, 25,624.